Welcome to another episode of
Ray and Nev.
And how you doing, Nev? How you doing this morning?
I'm good.
So this is a special episode since we're doing it so early in the morning. So
yeah,
so, what woke you up this morning?
Really just thinking about 2022 keeps me kind of motivating these last few days of 2021. Thinking about all that's coming, all that we have to do to make sure that everything gets delivered at the right time. But
yeah, I mean, did you already do your Christmas shopping?
Christmas shopping? Well, I don't do that.
You don't do Christmas shopping?
What?
So
no, what? Nah. I do plan to pick up some things. It's a few things that I still have to pick up. Exactly, right? And we only have 2 weeks left in this year.
Just so you guys know, in the studio, audience out there listening, he's not getting anybody any gifts. So if you're a family member and you're watching the podcast, just understand that you're not getting a gift from Neville.
It's the thought, though. You see, I'm thinking about it.
He's just bringing it out to the air just so that you guys think that he's gonna get you a gift. So whatever so this is the thing. So I went shopping this past week, right?
Yep.
There's nothing there, bro. There's nothing there.
Yep.
Literally, I mean, and then you go to your go-to, right? You know what my go-to is?
If
I can't find it anywhere, can't find Amazon, right?
Yeah.
You go there, guess what?
It's all there.
It's not even on there.
It's not.
So when it's not even on there, now we got problems.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's a problem.
So so that being said, just like I said, man, if you're on Neville's list to get a gift, just understand that, because of his procrastination, you're not gonna get it. But that leads me to my next topic. In regards to 2022, how much of a procrastinator should I be if I'm buying a home?
Oh man, if you're even thinking about, let me go ahead and wait a little bit longer.
Yeah,
you're already out of the game.
Yeah,
you should have already been planning for 2022. It's gonna be insane. The housing market, I see it as being crazy.
You think it's gonna get crazy than it already is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel like enough people have waited long enough where it's like, I'm waiting for the market to go down, and now we're gonna see a slight shift. That's gonna be enough of an indication for the crowds to come out during the summer, January.
Well, I'll give you this. So I pulled up the stats. Every week I pull up stats, right, for the counties that we service, right? And every week, so we had Thanksgiving weekend.
Okay.
Right. The Thanksgiving weekend, when I pulled the stats that following Monday for what closed that week before, we were at 803 transactions, something in the 800 range. I think it's 803 or 806, if I'm not mistaken. And then I pulled the stats, and we had the morning meeting, and in the meeting I said to everybody, look, this could be a sign of the market slowing down. The only way that it'll indicate that, because on average we do in the areas that we service, we do on average between 1,000 and 1,100 sales per week. And the next week, I said, well, we're gonna know what's gonna indicate if it's slow or not based on the following week, right?
Yeah.
So the following week, I pulled the stats: 1,500 sales.
Oh wow!
So it actually shows that you're right. It's not slowing down. It's not slowing down.
And then this is supposed to be the slow part of the year.
I'm just saying. I mean,
nobody really buys houses during Christmas time.
No. I mean,
but if it's 1,500, then and this is the slow time, imagine what the summer is going to look like.
Think about this. This was the first week of December, which would have been properties that went under contract either October, November.
Yeah.
So, and December, it's looking like it's not going to slow down. We're having another record month this month. We had a record month last month and the month before that.
Yep.
Every month, except for, I want to say July, was record breaking for us. So for us, and let's say we're the barometer. Imagine every other office in the Central Florida area that's servicing these customers out there that need a home and need to sell their home. Now, what would you say for somebody that's planning on selling? What would be their first step?
Their first step in selling?
Yeah, if they want to sell their home, what should be the first thing they're looking to do?
First thing they need to do is get an agent. Second,
why? It's so easy to sell your home yourself right now.
Oh wait, okay, that's something that needs to be unpacked.
Okay, well, I mean, let's see. If I put it on Zillow.
So there's two things that happen. So it's easy to get your home under contract. Is it easy to sell your home? Absolutely not. There's a lot of things in the background that a person who sells one home every 10 years just doesn't know. They wouldn't know that our contracts changed in October.
That is true. That is true. What else? What else is a big concern for most people? Like, if I'm selling my home, I'm not a realtor. I don't know anything about real estate. What are the key things that a realtor does that I can do for myself? Obviously, the contract, knowing the contract for sure.
Honestly, from the listing point, I always feel like the most important thing the listing agent does is make sure that person who put in an offer, the buyer, is actually a qualified buyer by asking the right questions to the correct people.
Okay. And so my question is that something me as a regular seller can do? I mean, because I don't know I don't know what goes on in lending. I don't know how to ask those questions. What questions should I be asking?
That's definitely something a regular person can do as long as they know the questions and who to actually ask the questions to. We can ask the buyer's agents all day, what does the loan look like? And they're going to say good.
Yeah.
What does good mean?
Is that the right question?
And that is not the right question. Okay. I heard good yesterday, and that was the next thing I said. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
What is good? It's really knowing actually the terms is really what's going to be the difference between getting a file from under contract to closing.
Okay.
Because when someone says, "Oh, it's in underwriting," what does that mean?
Exactly.
I mean, the average person doesn't hear the word underwriting unless they're buying insurance or a house.
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. And I mean, you can learn all of these terms. It's going to take you a while before you understand what it means, but it's definitely learnable for the average person to sell their own house.
So my question to you is, okay, so I don't want to learn the terms, right?
Yep.
How do you sell me on what you're going to charge me in regards to selling my home?
By what I'm going to charge you?
Yeah. How do you sell me on the fact, like let's say, for example, you want to charge me a percentage. How do you sell me on the percentage you want to charge me?
I guess I'm a little thrown off by that because I'm not trying to sell you on the percentage I'm going to charge you. I'm going to show you my value. And if you think that's justified, then go with it.
Okay. So is it fair to say that if you gave me, like, for example, so you showed me value.
How would you show your value?
Me? What do you mean, me as what, the agent,
as the listing agent? How would you show your value? I think we might have a client downstairs. Let me go grab him.
Yeah, let's see who's down there. So, but I don't know who's downstairs. I don't know. We're trying to see who's downstairs. We usually don't do it this early, but we do have a vision board class coming today at 9. So hopefully it's probably somebody for that class that came in early and is helping set up. But yeah, so we'll find out who that was. So I'm checking to see if Neville, who we got.
So actually, let me come back. Actually, it's pretty funny. It's Lewis.
Oh, Lewis, this is the guy that's been on the show more than anybody we know.
Yeah. So this is actually like one of those examples where it's like we're constantly working.
Yeah.
Even on a Saturday.
You were asking me about the Valley before we found out we had somebody walk into the studio. So, all right. So that's one of the things. We work out all the time. That's one of the values. Number 2, there's a lot of hats that we wear. How do I show my value? Obviously, knowledge and experience. I mean, one of the biggest things that happened. So right now, with the market being the way it is, one of the first steps that I take is, where are we going to? There's no reason to sell. Matter of fact, there was a story yesterday. We had a little holiday get together, and one of the agents reaches out to me and says, "Ray, you know how you always teach us to find the destination before we sell the place? Well, this person who's a realtor decided to sell her sister's house without putting her anywhere, right? So what does that do for her? It puts her in a rock and a hard place.
It essentially moves somebody from being a homeowner to being
homeless, which is horrible. So that's one of the things that sells us on value. That's one of the values that I have.
It's thinking about the problems that can come up that we've seen just from experience. That as a homeowner you wouldn't have known about.
Correct.
There's a million and one things that can happen in a transaction, and us knowing that these things can happen and preparing for them, even if they don't, is really part of the value that we do deliver to our clients.
But wait, I got a question for you. it's really easy to get a real estate license, so anybody can do it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, what is it? 42 hours?
Yeah. 40, 42, 43, 63, 63 hours.
63 hours.
45 post licensing.
Mm.
Yeah. So
100 hours, 100 and change hours overall to get a real estate license.
Do you really learn from taking the class? How much did you learn from the class? You learn how to pass the test, right?
I learned how to pass the test. Yeah, it's just like public school.
Yeah,
they teach you how to pass the test.
So let's talk about the steps. So obviously, if I was selling the home myself, always consult a realtor to see what they can do, what value they can offer, right?
Yes.
2, make sure you get the proper price analysis, right? Because that Zillow ain't working, right?
Zillow is not working. Zillow actually messed up an appraisal that I had recently because they purchased the house above market price. Yeah. So obviously the neighbors thought they can sell their house for the same price. Unfortunately, appraisers are not using the Zillow purchases as part of their comps or part of their analysis for the pricing because of the way that Zillow is purchasing houses.
Well, they were also on the news a few weeks ago using their own formula, and obviously they overpriced themselves into oblivion in the sense that they are in the loss, in the red for billions of dollars that they've lost because they bought properties incorrectly. So, all right, so we can't use Zillow. So where will we get our information from?
I think that's part of knowledge, actually. Knowing where to gather this information, because you can gather information from anywhere, but knowing where to gather correct information from the MLS, from county records, because these numbers don't lie. These are going to be facts. This is what actually happened in the market. Are these homes that sold where they bought with cash, conventional loans, FHA loans? How were they purchased? Because they do matter ultimately at the end of the day for comp reasons, which will contribute in the pricing of your home.
Number 3, preparing the home.
Preparing the home. That's also very important because if a house is a mess, a 3,000 square foot house filled with $300,000 worth of stuff is going to look like a 500 square foot house. Yeah. Ultimately.
Yeah. No one. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if it's all cluttered, it's going to look like it doesn't have space.
Exactly. It's going to feel like a shack. No matter how nice of a neighborhood it is in.
I remember one time I had a property in Celebration that I went to sell, and it was a nice older lady, and I went to the house. I went to the listing appointment. I literally tripped maybe 3 or 4 times over boxes and stuff like that, trying to get to the living room. But we did help her clean up the house. We helped her get the house ready. One of the coolest things we found out as soon as we started to clean up the house, she had marble floors. She actually paid to. So here it is. At that point in time, I want to say this was about, close to 2012, so almost 10 years ago. That house was worth at the time about $450,000, which is what we sold it for. We couldn't have sold it for that price if I would have left the house the way it was, So that's another thing that I think is essential, making sure that you prepare the house, like you said, fix any minor repairs that need to be fixed. So question number 4, ready? So we talked about price, we talked about preparation. Yeah. Number 4 is the hardest one. And I think the number 4 is the one why you would need the agent the most. Negotiations.
I 100% agree, but I feel like we actually missed a portion of it. So we talked about preparation. Now we need to actually talk about putting in the work. Like, actually, you could plan all day without putting in the work. Something that's really important, especially in this day and age of real estate, is visual. Pictures. How pictures, walkthroughs,
that's right, preparing the house.
How are we going to be able to deliver this image of the house as quickly and easy as possible for the consumer? Yeah. Because that really does matter. If you're just going to go in there and take iPhone pictures, I promise you're leaving money on the table.
No, and I know that we're post-COVID, but at this point in time, like, people are, there's still people buying off of the internet. Didn't you just have a closing coming up that they haven't seen the house yet?
I have a closing coming up, and the buyers have never seen the home. They've seen the home. They've never physically been in the home. But the pictures, the 3D tours, the FaceTime that the agent has done walking through the house was good enough for the buyers to feel comfortable in moving forward.
To pull the trigger.
Yeah, we're pulling the trigger and purchasing a home. And that's what I'm saying, where it's so important for you to be actually showing the correct visuals of the home so the buyers can feel comfortable with purchasing it even without this physically being there.
What's one of the biggest things that you would say would be a downfall? Like I have a thought in my head, but would be a downfall of me selling the home myself.
Selling the home yourself this might be your first, or maybe some people, this is my third home that I've sold myself. A lot changes in 1 year. A lot changes in 2 years of real estate. So if you're still using those same old methods, you're leaving money on the table. Yeah. I hired a photographer just to do regular pictures. You're leaving money on the table without the 3D tour.
All right, so I'll give you the question another way, right? Let's say I own the home, right?
Mm-hmm.
For let's say 10 years, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
My kids grew up in the home,
mm-hmm.
and my wife obviously has an emotional attachment to the home,
mm-hmm.
right? So at that point in time, I rephrase the question to say, okay, what, when you say using the old methods, but what is it about a buyer and a seller talking to each other that could construe the problem?
Oh, wow.
Knowing that my wife, loved the home, yet the buyer, we talked about it yesterday.
So this comes down to the seller. What does the seller want for their house?
Top dollar.
Absolutely top dollar. What does the buyer want for this house?
To get a deal.
To get a deal. That's impossible to work. You're mixing oil and water. Opposites. Yeah, you're mixing oil and water. It's not going to mix. So that's kind of the job between the realtors, is to find that middle ground where everybody leaves the deal happy and satisfied, and no one feels like they were under negotiated or over negotiated, or they were played by the deal. Everybody has to leave happy, and that's ultimately our goal at the end of the day.
And not only that, you have to understand too that the buyer wants to have a win situation, the seller wants to have a win-win situation. I was on a call yesterday for about an hour and 30 minutes where the buyer wanted to win, seller not win at all, where the seller's actually winning at this point. So that being said, it's always good to have a realtor in place, because obviously the realtor negotiates on your behalf, and they try to take care of you. I mean, when you buy a home, you're never going to check all the boxes unless you have an unlimited, like if you have unlimited income, and then you decide, I want this house and I can afford it, and I don't want to cut any corners, and this is everything that I want. At that point, you build a house.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're buying a resale, and it's never going to check 100% all the boxes, but the realtor will do their best to get you the closest thing that checks as many boxes as possible. And where the issue that I see lies is, if you put a buyer and a seller in the room together, somebody might chop somebody's head off.
And actually, that's
the
funny.
Minute somebody says something.
That's funny, because now we're at a time with closings that the seller and the buyer never meet each other.
Nope.
The title company actually schedules the closings for 2 different times for the buyer and the seller, because they know that it can potentially be
if there was turmoil in the deal, or
an explosive mix right there of two people who might, maybe one of them feel like they didn't get a good deal.
Yep. And that's usually, how it goes. But
yesterday I wanted the buyer and the seller to meet.
Yeah.
But the title, I think she didn't really know what was going on throughout the deal, so she didn't feel comfortable with introducing everybody. But I know the buyers.
Title
I know the sellers.
the
buyers were okay with it. I know the sellers were happy with what they got.
Yeah.
There was never at any point where anybody was upset.
I think that whole transaction was super smooth. Mm-hmm. So you do a great job. I got to applaud you for that.
Thank you.
You do a great job, and you stay on top of everything. And obviously, with us being a team, where we're able to do things that most agencies can't do. So that's one of the better things about us as well. I'm not saying use us. I'm just saying use a realtor. I mean, it never has to be us, because there's enough business out there for everyone, and there's enough of us out there you'll find the perfect realtor for you. The perfect realtor. Now, going back to the buying side, my questions are, when you're planning to buy for the new year, obviously with everything. So I'll give you an example. That why I'm bringing this up. I'm actually in the market.
Okay.
I'm planning on buying in Lake Nona.
Oh.
So I'll be moving.
I thought you lived in Lake Nona.
It's close enough.
It's different now, right? Go ahead.
It's different now. I live on the backwoods of Lake Nona. Hey, first of all, you have to go on Lake Nona Boulevard to get to my house. So
I just recall when you purchased the house. What you said. That's it.
I'm just saying.
He said he lived in Lake Nona.
I did not say that. I said Wyndham Lakes. Thank you very much.
Anyhow,
so
continue the story.
Anyway, so we're looking at Lake Nona, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can pretty much assure you, last year, in Lake Nona. I could find what I really wanted for about $400,000. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to go about that range because obviously the house that I have has gone up in value by about $200,000. So I started looking at 460. That's the range I'm looking for. And it turned out to be that, I'm going to have to up my budget to about 570 to get everything I want. If I want to stay in the Lake Nona area, if I want to move from the outskirts into the inskirts of Lake Nona, you know what I'm saying? So me saying that is like, okay, so what should a buyer like myself do to prepare for the upcoming year? Because obviously I'll be buying, I want to say sometime in January. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy first and then turn around and sell. So.
Okay. So I'm glad you actually brought that up and you asked that question because, of course, it's the end of the year. And everybody that's self-employed entrepreneurs, they know that you plan for the next year at the end of the previous year.
Correct.
So a lot of people are planning for 2022. And something that I'm seeing on a lot of vision boards are new homes.
New homes.
It's on my vision board.
Yeah, well, and think about it like this. On mine, I have two. I have
exactly
that way. So we went on a retreat, and I was like, I like this house, so I was thinking I'm gonna buy one and probably on the beach is where I'm thinking, but or close to it, so that way whenever we have a retreat, we just have our own house that we can go to.
That's actually
spend
awesome.
The time. So that's our goal.
But there's houses on everybody's vision board, and just putting the house from the retreat on your vision board is not gonna get you that house.
No,
unfortunately, that's just not how vision boards work.
Nope.
It's great to have it in front of you to see it every day, but without planning on how you're gonna get this home, you're gonna leave 2022 without it.
Well, think about it like this: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's
exactly.
Just the bottom line.
I honestly prefer the other one.
Which was the other one?
Piss poor preparation.
Piss poor performance.
Piss poor planning. Shit, I can't remember what it is.
You can't even remember.
I didn't. You know why? And do you know why?
Why?
Because I didn't plan to say it.
Yeah, exactly. You see what I'm saying? Had he written it down, had it been in his notes, he would have been able to say it.
Proper preparation.
Proper preparation
prevents piss poor performance.
Yep, I know which one that is. PPP. Got it.
So if I was playing it would have came out a lot better. But anyways, but yeah, definitely planning to purchase your home, and the first thing on that plan would be, how can you know if you can buy a house or not?
Get pre-approved.
And even if you're thinking, I don't want to even buy a house until November of next year.
What's a good time? Like right now to be pre-approved? Should I get pre-approved right away?
You should get pre-approved today.
Okay.
For the simple fact that even if you're like, I don't want to buy a house until next year of November.
Okay.
You go to a lender and you get pre-approved. The reason for it is because the lender is going to look at it and tell you, oh, you can buy a house, but if you work on your credit a little bit more, your interest rate would be this.
Yep.
Compared to what it is right now.
Not only the interest rate, but also the fact that you could turn around and pay off some debt and be able to buy a higher price point.
Exactly. And everybody is worried about the interest rate, but no one worried about it 6 months ago before they purchased the house. But now when it's time to buy, now they want to rush and try to figure out how to get the lower one. If you would have checked it 6 months ago, a year ago, you could have been working on it this entire time.
Correct.
So now when you go to purchase a house, you have the lowest interest rate you've ever seen.
Yeah, because you worked on your credit score
exactly.
throughout the process. So getting pre-approved is one. Obviously, one of the biggest things, especially going into the new year, that I think that's very important that we need to let the audience know is you need to definitely work on making sure that your taxes are right. That's another one. A lot of people write off a lot of stuff, especially self-employed individuals.
Mm-hmm.
They pretty much write off their whole thing, their whole salary, which is a no-no because then at that point you don't show income to be able to purchase your home. So that's another thing you want to talk to your lender about, because what happens is, based on what you want to purchase, obviously you want to do your taxes the right way. I mean, you should be doing your taxes the right way all the time.
Yeah.
And the best way to do it is, always talk to a CPA and talk about maybe doing your deductions early. Never do too much deductions because you shouldn't have the government play with your money and then return at the end of the year. Which is the funniest thing because I was watching a video the other day where the lady was like, "You made what, $3,000-4,000 in return? You got that as a tax return? Then that means you gave the government more than that money to play with, while they're making money off your money, and yet you just overpaid. Mm-hmm. That's why you're getting a tax return."
Yeah.
And if you look at most entrepreneurs that are very wealthy and doing very well for themselves, I would say about 99% of them pay taxes, even if it's small. Because, and this is the thing I want people to understand out there. Let's say if I get my tax bill this year and I only have to pay, let's say $300, right? It's the reason for that. It's not that I found some stupid loophole. The reason for that is because I've been paying taxes throughout the year, but I just didn't give the government enough, right? So every quarter I sit down with the CPA, we write down what we made, and we sent them a check. So based on that, at the end of the year, they say, oh, well, you missed this, $300 here and there. Okay, perfect. Now I write a check for $300, but I might have paid them $30 for the whole year.
Yep.
If that makes sense, because of the amount of money that I make. So when you're an entrepreneur like ourselves, when you're a 1099, which there's a ton of 1099 here in Florida, definitely do your taxes the right way. Get with the CPA as soon as you can, because that's going to help. Number 3, you have to pick an area, right? Plan for the area.
You need to plan for the area. Know where you want to be, because that's going to have a huge effect on the price of the home.
Yeah, once I know the price, I know what areas I can choose.
Exactly. Yep. And if the areas that you can afford are in areas that you like, you're fortunate enough to get your pre-approval a year before you want to start shopping. So now you can start working on somehow increasing your pre-approval amount so you can go to the areas that you want to be in.
Got a question for you. So I'm a first-time buyer.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to me if I can afford $300, but I want that $400,000 home? What's my steps? What do you say to me? What do you tell a client that wants to buy more than they can afford?
So there's multiple different ways to go about that. It's all about what the client is comfortable with.
Did you tell them you can't buy wine on a beer budget? Because I heard that one time.
That is, I don't say that. I wait for them to say it. But anyways, first thing I would
say that to a client. The client was so pissed. He didn't want to work with that anymore.
Exactly.
He was in the right. You don't say that to somebody. But okay.
First thing I ask is, if they're purchasing a loan, is there anybody that you would feel comfortable adding to this loan so you can get pre-approved for a larger amount? If the answer is no, which unfortunately, for a lot of people, the answer is no.
Yeah.
They're purchasing a loan. That's completely fine.
But so they can add their spouse. They can add.
You can add a spouse, a family member.
Brother, sister, cousin.
If your child is old enough to work and they have an income, you can add them to it.
Yep. What that does is builds amazing credit for the child as long as everything's being paid.
Exactly.
And then eventually you can refi, pull the child out, and then they can buy their own home when it comes time. So. Exactly.
And then, but if they can't do that, which I understand a lot of people can't do that. First thing I like to talk about is the fact that this is your first home. This is your starter home. No one ever. It's very rare that you live in the first home you bought forever.
Yeah.
So let's start somewhere. And next year the prices are going to go up on the house you just purchased. That means when you sell, you're going to have more equity, more money in your pocket.
Well,
so you can, and your income is hopefully going to be higher.
Correct.
So you're going to have more money to purchase your dream home.
The dream home.
And in this market, you could do that in a year.
Correct. A perfect example of that is, the client you just closed.
Mm-hmm.
They bought the house, a year ago, less than a year ago?
They bought it a year ago. And in that year, they made almost $90,000 of equity, which is so crazy because when we talk about the reason why they sold the house, he sold his home because he needed a bigger home, but ultimately it's because he wanted to go back to school.
Yep.
And he wanted to use that equity to pay his mortgage for the year while he's in school because he didn't want to work.
Correct.
So let's see what happens.
So
he sold a cheaper home, bought a house that was almost $80,000 more expensive, still has money in his pocket to quit his job to go to school. And he doesn't have any bills now. And
the payments are the same. And the crazy thing is, this is the coolest thing about it. And I'm so proud of these two because they're very young. They're a young couple.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna go to school without having to worry about making payments,
mm-hmm.
and because obviously he has to not work while he's going through school, because he's trying to better his education to get a better position within his company. So his company's gonna give him the time off to do so. But on top of that, there's something that's pretty cool. Is he literally is gonna be debt free from school because he's paying from school with the money he already had.
Yep.
And then he's paying for his mortgage with the money that he's going to keep for the next 2 years.
Yep.
While he goes to school, which is amazing. So he literally took an investment that he made a year ago, less than a year ago, right? I think
it's almost been exactly a year.
So about a year ago. So he took the investment from a year ago because when he was told, hey, you should buy this house, he didn't say, well, it's not really the one that I want because it's not where he wanted to be.
Or he didn't say, I'm going to wait for the market to crash.
Yeah, I'm going to wait for the market to crash. Well, there's a lot of investors out there. I had a lot of investors last year and this year holding back because they're waiting for this amazing crash that's about to happen. It's not coming, at least not in the near future, and at least not to Florida. So if you're looking to do investments in Florida, it's not going to happen for you. But if you are a buyer and you're looking to buy in Florida right now, you need to buy as soon as possible.
If the market crashes, what you're going to see is a lot of people moving to Florida.
Yeah.
So our housing market is still going to be actually pretty stable.
Be pretty strong.
The reason people are moving to Florida from northern states, New York, New Jersey, California, next year taxes are going up.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. Remember, we have the new administrations coming in, and they have done a lot of changes to the tax law.
Mm-hmm.
So
right now in Jersey, tax for a 2,000 square foot house is almost $10,000 for the year.
Yeah. And
for that same house here is like what $3,500?
$3,500, which is crazy, and the average home in San Diego. So we've got the Disney people moving here. The average home, and that's another thing, with people moving their corporations to Florida, they're moving employees here, which means that's less properties out there for the residents of Florida to buy. So there's a lot of competition. There's a ton of competition. Matter of fact, millionaires moving to Florida in the past year. I'm gonna go millionaires moving to Florida in the last. I want to say the last 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. In the last 5 years, if you look at that, let me see here. So this was an article in, it's a small publication, Pro Bible, but they talked about the millionaires that are moving to Florida, talk about the pitfall. So you've got the main problem with moving to Florida is that you have to live in Florida, according to the story. But the reason for that is obviously, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what the problem. So you don't have the 4 seasons that you have in New York, because I'm a New York, New York native that moved to Florida about 20 years ago. You don't have the seasons. Other than that, right now, if you're listening to us from New York City, just understand. We are, he's wearing a sweater because he wants to, but he's probably going to have to take it off come noontime because it's going to be hot.
Yeah, I was looking outside the window. The sun is shining right now.
Yes, so he's probably going to have to take it off. I'm actually wearing a short sleeve, and I can do that in the winter here, inside and outdoors. So that being said, I'm not really caring too much about Florida weather. But other than that, you have billions and billions of dollars from New York City that have moved down to South Florida, and they have brought their companies. I have a cousin of mine that actually moved here. He was headhunted from one of the agencies that was in New York, moved their operations and headquarters to South Florida, and then headhunting him from his company in New York. And then a year later, his company in New York now moved down here. So now they're headhunting him for that. But, he hasn't decided to make a move yet because he likes where he's at right now. But he's got 2 companies that are fighting for him. That one company moved him here, and then the other company followed him. It wasn't the other way around. Mm-hmm. So that lets you know. We have more companies in Florida that have moved here. 95% of the companies that are in South Florida right now came from up north. 95% of the big billion-dollar companies that are in Florida right now came from New York. If you don't understand that, you need to actually look to see, what it is that's causing the problem. And I think, like you said, there's taxes, man. Taxes is causing the problem.
Yep. Taxes. Of course, COVID, we've been talking about that this entire year. There's no freedom in these states. You can't do anything without a vaccination card. So moving around the city is actually pretty difficult. It's pretty annoying. But here in Florida, we've been able to kind of maintain the status quo here.
Yeah. No, and think about it like this. So I was in North Carolina for Thanksgiving. That was a problem.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Everywhere we went, I had to wear a mask, which I'm not used to wearing a mask. So I'm not used to having a mask with me at all times. So to me, it was a problem because everywhere I went, I would have to stop at a gas station or stop somewhere, buy a pack of masks so we can have it in Vivi's purse so we can, go about, North Carolina. And people would just hey, in order to come here, I went into a store where there were 2 police officers. And as soon as I walked in, they're like, stop. Do you have a mask? No. And literally, so we went back to the car. I found a really raggedy mask that's probably sitting under the seat. There's no protection, by the way. Probably got holes in it. But I put that on. And then my wife's cousin that was with me, he literally took off his t-shirt and he had a sweater underneath because we were there. It was cold there,
Yeah.
and he put his t-shirt as his mask. So it wasn't like you had to wear a mask, but we had to go to those extremes just to go buy milk. And I can go buy milk right now without wearing a mask. Do I have to protect myself? Yeah, but I mean, I've had COVID. We both did. Neville took it harder than I did. Don't understand why. And then, some people get vaccinated, some people don't. It really depends on the person. But I will tell you, from getting COVID, it felt more like the flu to me. But it felt like a really strong flu because it attacked parts of me that were weak, which is my blood pressure. So, but other than that, plus shout out to Jasmine who gave me sea moss. That helped me out. Vivi was hitting me up with that. But she literally attacked it with everything. And usually people that attack it with the right things, it helps them. I know with me, it was the fact that my wife was on me, she checked my oxygen every like 5 minutes because she was worried. But in regards to the flu, it felt like the flu to me. Yeah. And I haven't had a strong flu in a while. So.
Yeah. But that's just one of those things that we of course worry about COVID here in Orlando and Florida, but we don't have to worry about the mask mandates. We don't have to worry about people losing their jobs because of they didn't get vaccinated, depending on the field that you're in.
Yeah. But
you're able to almost move around like it's normal, which also means that the housing market is going to be abnormal because more people are going to be moving here to get that quote unquote freedom. So that's something to expect if you're going to be a buyer next year. Move with urgency because I promise you, there's 100 other people from out of state that are moving with urgency.
Oh yeah,
because they're running away from things they don't like in their home state.
And New York, I highlight New York because I'm from there, but New York's not the only state that we're getting a ton of people from. We're getting people from Chicago. We're even getting people from California, which is a sunny state. So go figure there. But I think a lot of the Californians are deciding to go south to Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's.
But we're getting a lot of people from out of country as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, foreigners that are coming in, and something that's that people don't really realize is that in these foreign countries, there's no credit scores.
Yeah.
So there's no purchasing a house with credit. They're coming with cash. So if you're not preparing yourself as a buyer here in Orlando, you're already way behind.
A lot of these FHA loans are non-existent for this year because of that. A lot of cash buyers, a lot of conventional buyers. But that being said, that is all the time we have for today because I have to get to the next meeting. But thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear about. Next week's episode, we're probably going to go back to Friday afternoons. So hope to see you there. By the way,
next week, I'm actually going to tell you about the Christmas parties that I went to.
Yeah, and not only that, we're going to talk about, we're actually going to have the guest that won the 55-inch TV come pick up the TV. So we'll be posting those videos, how he won the TV. And everybody else that won, we're getting those gifts out to everyone before the Christmas holidays. So next week, you'll get it in the mail as long as we have your mailing address. If not, you're going to have to come pick it up here at the studio. So thank you for watching. Have a great one.
Have a good one.